Hey guys, welcome back to Project Bodybuilding. The Classic Physique division at this year's Arnold Classic was arguably the most exciting division. Wesley Vissers of course pulled off the upset against Ramon Dino. And even though that was a big upset, I don't see the majority of fans up in arms about that. The consensus seems to be that that was a deserved win for Wesley. But Classic did have some controversy. Down in 3rd and 4th place we had Urs and Breon respectively. The knee-jerk reaction from me and everyone I saw was it happened again. It happens at every show Breon enters. Breon was once again robbed. I don't think many people had him winning, but everyone I talked to had Breon at least in 3rd. Some even had him in 2nd. So I want to break this down because like I said, my initial reaction was that Breon was robbed of 3rd. And what's interesting is that we say this all the time. I literally did the same video but from the 2023 Olympia. I thought Breon was robbed there. And we can go back further and I can point out several instances where Breon should have placed higher. But before I go down that rabbit hole, first we need to decide if he was actually robbed at the 2024 Arnold Classic. For the picks being used today, I'm using screenshots from the individual posing routines filmed by Gilco Productions. I think the live stream really hurt Urs because his tan was really dark and that looked really poor on the live stream. So using these HD pics will make this comparison a level playing field. So with the intro out of the way, let's jump into today's video. If you guys like this video and want to see more, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. In the front double, immediately my eyes are drawn to Breon, which says a lot about what's going on here. Urs has the bigger structure, but what Breon lacks in being taller and more imposing, he makes up for with better quality. That's why I keep looking at him, all the extra details and the polish, but more on the details part later. Now I did say Urs's structure is bigger, and that's true, he's taller and wider than Breon, but is he really cutting the better outline? Well, I think so, but honestly not by much. Breon's waist looks pretty small with his vacuum, and he's fairly wide through the lats. Urs has the better taper, but Breon is no slouch in bringing a solid upper body outline. But to be fair, and this may be a nitpick, I don't really like Urs's ribcage. I just don't like how it's shaped and how it looks from the front double with his vacuum. But I digress. Now let's go downstairs to what should be Breon's weakest point. The weight cap has been brutally hurting Breon's legs for years, but now he has about 7 more pounds to work with. In 2023, we saw the legs start to come back a little. And here at the Arnold, I think we saw them bounce back even more. So he has a little more fullness, and I think in this given pose, they don't really look so much like a weak point. Maybe a little undersized, but not to the extent that they used to be. And take a look at the disparity in detail. Breon's legs are insanely separated. Urs came into prejudging looking very flat, and as counterintuitive as it may sound, the flatter you look, the less detailed you look. So Urs's legs have a good amount of size, but not the level of cuts that Breon has. And honestly, this is going to be crazy to say maybe, but I prefer Breon's legs in this shot. I'm not saying he has the better legs as a whole because Urs's legs are fantastic, but from this angle and this pose, with this picture, I prefer the deeper cuts from Breon, and he's a bit fuller too, so they don't look as small. And that detail thing is not just limited to the legs. Like I said, Breon's quality is unmatched. Urs has the same problem as he does in the quads throughout his entire physique. He doesn't have the pop or detail of Breon anywhere on his physique. Breon has the deeper abs even while pulling a vacuum, the deeper separation in the legs and the thinner skin and the more 3D look. And we haven't even talked about the arms. I was just saving them for the end of this pose because there isn't a discussion to be had. Urs's arms are far where they need to be and Breon's biceps are full and peaked. Overall, I don't think Urs's slightly better taper in the upper body is enough to save him in this pose. Breon was pretty good in that regard. I like him more in the legs and he has better overall condition, not to mention his arms completely eclipse Urs's. I don't see this as a win for Urs at all. The side chest is perhaps the best example of the quality versus quantity debate. Breon has the better details, muscle maturity, thinner skin, things like that. Urs is bigger, but I think we'll find that he's not really better. Look at the side leg. Breon's legs were never really affected by the weight cap as far as the side leg was concerned. He's obviously not as big as Urs because Urs is just a bigger human, but Breon doesn't look undersized in terms of his own physique. And they have similar levels of detail here. Usually Urs is drier and sharper, but I think him and Breon are pretty much on par, at least in this area. Now on the pecs, this is a little interesting. Urs has the bigger rib cage and he's really puffing up his chest to make it look like he has a lot of pec mass, which he really doesn't. Breon doesn't have the biggest rib cage and he's not propping up his pecs as much, but we can see he is smoking Urs in terms of detail. But in terms of the far pec height, Urs has him beat by a little. So in the pecs, both gentlemen win different areas, but let's take a look at the final area, the arm and delt. In the delt, I clearly have Breon, but in the arm, it's a little tricky. Breon's biceps helped him in the front double, but here I don't like how those peaks translate to the side angle. Still, Urs is just looking undersized and stringy as always. So overall, Breon again has the better quality. We know that, but this is a quantity pose. This is all about looking more muscular from the side, and I would give Urs a slight advantage there. I think this pose is a lot closer than the first. I am personally going with Breon on this one, but I can certainly see Urs's argument. I'm just a conditioning guy. I love Breon's extra polish, even if he is slightly smaller overall. I honestly contemplated just skipping the rear double. I mean, this is just for sport on Breon's part now. Not only does he have the best back between these two, but his back was the best on the Arnold Classic stage. This probably could even beat some of the open guys if we're being honest. And Breon's main weakness, the lower body, is null and void here. He really only has been weak in the lower body from the front. From the rear, his quad sweeps look very respectable, the glutes are in and the hams are in too, and he also has the size. Urs is just a little bit bigger in the quad sweeps and in the adductors, giving him the overall fuller legs. I don't really think he's much more detailed in the hamstrings, if at all, and Breon beats him in the glutes. This really is just so conclusive. We'll consider margins a little bit more at the end of the video, but this is such a dominating win for Breon. Unfortunately for the abs and thighs pose, Breon didn't hit it in his individual posing routine, so I had to use a screenshot from the live stream. But the prejudging live stream really hurt Urs, like I said at the beginning, so I took this from finals. Now with Urs, we have a very open division style of execution. He has the tilt and is showing off his obliques and flexing those quads hard to show off the striations he has. I'm not a super big fan of this execution, but look at his sum of parts. Breon has improved the legs, but Urs has the size and the detail with the feathering. And having those two things over Breon means Urs wins the legs. Now in the abs, I'm not super fond of either guy. Neither competitor has the vertical split in the abs, but they have good horizontal separation between their abs. Breon also has the fault of having the overall smaller abs. Urs is a little more blockiness to them, which is a good thing. However, I think Urs's waist is a little blocky too. I don't think Breon's taper is stellar at all, but Urs's waist is fairly blocky for this division. It's still tiny by open standards. But overall, with those minor nitpicks, the posing, the slightly bigger waist, I just think Urs has the greater sum of parts. He wins the legs and has the superior ab development. I definitely prefer Breon personally, and I think he looks more classic, but I have to go with Urs in this one for beating Breon too much in the two namesakes of the pose. Now in the favorite classic pose, since this pose is so weird to judge, I kinda do my own thing. I like to incorporate the posing routines as well as the favorite classic pose of the athlete's choice. Let's start with the actual pose itself. Now both guys are phenomenal posers. I know Urs gets a lot more credit for his posing, but Breon is criminally underrated in this department. And in terms of each gentleman's actual pose, I far and away prefer Breon's. It's not even close, which is saying something because Urs's pose is great. He looks great structurally, he's got the lines, but the focus of the pose, the arm, is a little bit of a letdown. I think he has added a little bit of fullness to the biceps based on this photo, but it still needs to come up more. Breon chose a great pose. He gets to show off his amazing arms and his taper looks pretty good. I would even say the legs are more than decent. Again, he has a little less size, but a great amount of deep detail. This is down to personal preference, of course, I have to admit it. That's why I hate this pose, because it's injecting so much subjectivity into an already subjective division. So I'm just going with who I like more, and that's Breon. I love the polish yet again, and I think for looking classic, which this pose is all about, I like the extra details, and I think they help Breon especially in this pose. Now in the posing routine, I again have a favorite, but let's address the fact that Urs did win the best posing award for classic physique. It's very hard to argue with that, but come on, he's a crowd favorite. He posed to the pumping iron music at the Arnold Classic with a kind of cheeky bit at the end, and honestly I think he was a shoo-in before he even posed. But Breon's style is more up my alley. I prefer his slow and methodical posing, and I think it's truly more classic. But then at the last half of his routine, he also had a cheeky stunt with a little bit of dancing, so I'm just going to cut off half of both gentlemen's posing routines because let's be honest, that's not posing. But I will say when both gentlemen are actually posing seriously, I prefer Breon. But Urs won the best posing routine. Does it really matter? No, posing doesn't count in the actual scoring, but let's let the record show that Breon is no slouch. And as for the favorite classic pose, I'm going with Breon. Well, I don't know if most of you were keeping track, because if you're like me, you watch this live and you know that this was a clear decision. And even with giving Urs better quality pictures to work with, he still lost this comparison by a lot. He won 1 pose to Breon's 4. Now let's say I gave Urs even more benefit of the doubt. Let's say he keeps the abs and thighs, of course, but throw in the side chest too, since that was the closest other pose. And then maybe I can make an argument for the favorite classic pose going to Urs as well, because he won the best poser award, which isn't the same thing, but let's say I ran with it. That would give Urs 3 poses to Breon's 2. But the hoops I would have to jump through in order for that to happen just don't line up. And let's keep in mind that those 2 wins that Breon would hold on to, the front double and the rear double, are simply so dominant that there isn't a way Urs can clinch those even on his best day. And such strong victories in those very important poses would still have me favoring Breon even if we were in a scenario where Urs won 3 poses to Breon's 2, because margin has to account for something. But we simply are not in a scenario where Urs wins 3 poses. We're in the real world where he won 1 pose in this comparison. Maybe 2, but Breon had resounding victories in 2 of his poses, keep that in mind. And just put the scorecard aside for a second and just examine the physiques in totality. Now that Breon's legs are fuller, I think Urs is the one with the more gaps, and the bigger gaps at that. Urs's arms are not up to par with Breon's, it's not even close, and somehow the back is an even more dominant body part for Breon. And then think of the details. Breon's polish was incredible. I sounded like a broken record in this comparison, but Urs is still carrying a lot of young muscle, and he didn't have his usual details. Breon took him to school in terms of conditioning, muscle maturity, and just overall being more detailed for whatever reason. I don't think Urs's structures is enough to save him, especially because Breon improved his overall outline by bringing up the legs, and his waist is looking pretty tight. Honestly, it's only gotten smaller if you ask me. So was Breon robbed of 3rd place? There's really no need to drag this out. We all know it. Of course he was. I put out a poll after the results were called, and 3/4 of you guys agreed with me then and agree with me now. And remember, I did the same video a while back because I thought Breon was robbed at the 2023 Olympia. You can watch that video up in the corner. But look at the results there. Not as resounding, but it's still clear a lot of people thought Breon was robbed. And then the Urs that we got at this Arnold Classic was even worse, and the polling reflects that. Overall, I think Breon has been getting robbed of higher placings for a while now, and I think he got robbed at the 2024 Arnold Classic. This is really frustrating, to be honest, and I'm not even Breon. And I have to be honest here, but as sad as it is to say, I think Breon's kind of done here. At least he's done with placing very high. I thought with the new weight cap and his improvements he could work his way back up into the top 3, at the Olympia that is, but it's obvious that it's not going to happen. To no fault of Breon's either. But what I'm saying is if he didn't beat Urs here, it's not going to happen again. And now that Wesley has moved into that presumed top 3 at the Olympia too, that pushes Breon down to 5th. And I think going forward, the judges will try to push him out even harder. I don't really know why this is. I assume there's something going on behind the scenes. Maybe they're just changing judging criteria, and that's also partially why Rough Diesel has fallen so far and not recovered. That's probably part of it, but Breon's muscle quality should be putting him above guys like Urs, who may have the bigger, taller structures that they're looking for, but not the polish to their physiques. I really have no idea why this is happening. Maybe we can have Tyler Mannion break this down for us like he's been doing with a couple of other contests, but we'll have to wait and see. And as for Breon, I believe he was much more deserving of 3rd place than Urs. Well, that's going to do it for today's video. What did you guys think of this one? I know the majority of you will probably agree with me, but I still want to hear from those of you that think Urs deserved this. Let me know your argument for him. Do you think it's a structure thing or what? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments. By the way, if you guys are looking for any high quality supplements, the ones I use personally, look no further than Arms Race Nutrition. Then at checkout, you can use my code Project10 for 10% off your entire order. That's code Project10 at armsracenutrition.com. Finally, if you guys like this video and want to see more, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe while you're at it. With all of that said, I want to thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.
Gotta get that Lexi, yeah.